Hello, and welcome to today's presentation on Foglight Experience Viewer. Today we're going to talk about visitor level analytics. So the first one, this is a transaction definition. So this is a transaction filter called checkout with continuation. And what this transaction does, it's like all transactions, you need a start event. So what the start event does is it changes the transaction state from not started to started. Okay, once a transaction gets started, then it's going to look for the next steps along the way, which are, it could be shipping, billing, confirmation. Any of these steps are incremental steps that can go forward. So you look at shipping, and its start state for the transaction is going to be active. So it has to be active before shipping can get triggered inside the transaction. And then the same thing with billing. So the state has to be active before the billing step can be incremented. So what I did here is, instead of a typical checkout transaction where add to cart starts the transaction, I told our transaction that it could be add to cart, shipping, billing, confirmation, or order placed. So any of these events can start my transaction. Okay, now that I have any of these events starting my transaction, and what I do here is I have a checkout $0. So this is saying whatever the event is. If it's add to cart, increment a metric called checkout add to cart. If it's shipping, increment a metric called checkout shipping. Okay, so this $0 is a variable to say whatever started the transaction, we want to increment that counter for that transaction. Okay, then we go and we watch for any of these events that happen. So after we come in, regardless of where we started, whether it's at add to cart, shipping, billing, confirm, or order placed, regardless of where we start, we're going to look for these other events to happen afterwards, and then we're going to eventually look for an end event, the order placed event, or an error occurred, or an abandonment, where somebody went to one place and eventually stopped and then didn't continue anymore. Okay, so that's a typical transaction, and this is how it could be sensitive to continuation transactions, as opposed to just waiting for one specific event to start and then assuming that's going to finish in that session. Okay, so now let's go take a look at what this will look like inside of Foglight. Now what this means inside of Foglight is that we have to now look at the transaction a bit differently. So if we go inside of Foglight and we look at our Geo Application Builder, I took each one of those steps. So add to cart, shipping, billing, order placed, and confirmation. And each one of these are one of my transaction steps. So as I look at my checkout transaction, I can see that I go from, let me change my time frame a little bit here because I didn't have add to cart in there as well. But what we can see here is that we actually have more shipping transactions in a certain time frame than we have add to cart transactions. So these aren't necessarily going to happen in the same order as before, because you could have remember me sessions coming in and finishing from the shipping page. The sort order for this is going to be a little bit different because of the way we set it up, because we can actually have people starting at different steps. But it just basically sorts it from most to least. Now, one of the problems we'll have here is when we drill down, it's going to look for single sessions on the drill down. So right now, if I click on the 15, it's going to look for single sessions that went to confirmation and didn't place an order. Okay, so this is a problem that we have here. The drill down is only single session specific. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we can use a query to put in between the drill down and the session view that we just went into, so that we can accommodate for that. As we look at our transaction, the checkout with continuation transaction, as we look at the metadata, we can see that we have multiple session IDs logging back into finished transactions. So you can see each of the different ones. This one placed an order, this one did not. and you can see as you go through which orders they hit or which steps they hit. So billing, confirmation, shipping, and order placed. Now what we can do here with this metadata is we can start joining these sessions up with special queries, and so that we treat this as one session instead of multiple sessions. And the way we would do that is we would go ahead and create a SQL query with our query builder, and then what you can do is you can drag this table onto your backplane, and just to get an idea of what the transaction would look like, or what the drill down would look like. So what we'd want to drill down is we want to drill down on those sessions after they're joined together so that our counts are accurate. We drill down from the funnel. So this is the type of SQL statements that you're going to have to interject. Okay, now we have all of the different events that can happen inside checkout with continuation. And these are the events that we're going to want to select. So I'm going to want to look for order place, shipping, confirmation, and I'm probably going to want these in a slightly different order. I'm probably going to want to see my order placed last, and I'm probably going to want to see my, let's do it in the right order, my confirmation before my order placed, and this one is going to be my billing, and then my shipping would come first. I don't have add to cart in here, but we can get the general idea with this. So now what we can do is we want to add one more in here, and we're going to join by session ID over time. And what our session ID will let us do is it'll let us see all the ones that we're going to join together. So I'm going to join the session ID, and I'm going to actually aggregate this too. So I'm going to do a count function. So I'm going to count the session IDs in each one, but I'm also going to group by my session ID. So this is going to be my group by function. And then what I can do is I can set different values for each of these, or just leave them singular to start. So on the query. And that you can see that here's all my session identifiers. So here you can see some multiples if we sort. So instead of having 100 rows, we have 75 rows, because 25 of the transactions were actually returning transactions where they were doing a join and finishing the sessions. So I can see the cumulative results here. This one came back twice, and when they came back, they did finish all of these different transactions. So underneath this, I would have two separate transactions that are each individual sessions. What I could do from here, I'm not going to do it all, but I would be able to drill down on this identifier, and I would use the session ID to query into Foglight with the time frame that I'm querying this over. And what I would do then is I would pull up two different transactions inside of Foglight instead of one like we did before. So now that I want to drill down on this one where the events didn't happen and I have certain metadata, I could do that pretty easily, and I could see multiple sessions for one transaction. Okay, so I don't want to go too much further on this. This will conclude our demo for today. If you need more details, you can certainly see me and I can provide those. Thank you for attending.